योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः हरिः ओम्. In the previous session, we looked at Sutra 2.34 to 39, which were about the Siddhis. As Vyasa said, Yoginaha Siddhi Suchakam Bhavati. So there is a kind of Siddhi that comes about when the Vitarkas are vanquished through Pratipaksha Bhavanam. So that is the context in which we are looking at these sutras. So there is a Yama Niyama as a Vrata, as a sort of a vow or a resolution. As those Yama Niyamas are being practiced by the sadhaka, by the yogi, in terms of a vrata, vitarkas or contrary tendencies, contrary thoughts inevitably arise. Then here we have been told how Pratipaksha Bhavanam can be used as a countermeasure for the vitarkas, against the vitarkas. We have looked at what is Pratipaksha Bhavanam, and then when this Pratipaksha Bhavanam has fructified and the Yama Niyama Vratas get firmly established, then there are some Siddhis, some sort of attainments that are not just worldly attainments, right? That is known as Alaukika. So there are Siddhis that come out of the Yogangas, and those Siddhis have been described one by one, and we have seen those for the 5 Yamas, Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, and so on. Now today that continues, starting with Sutra 2.40, where we look at the Siddhis coming out of the Niyamas getting firmly established. So Vyasa sort of introduces by saying Niyameshu Vakshyamaha. He says, okay, we will now tell you about in the context of Niyamas. Then comes the Sutra 2.40 that says śaucāt svāṅgajugupsā parairasaṃsargaḥ. So out of the Niyama known as Shaucha, which again we have seen in quite some detail, so let us assume we know what that Niyama is about. Then what happens? Svāṅgajugupsā and paraihi asamsargaḥ. So what is this jugupsa? So jugupsa means sort of ghrina. Okay, ghrina in the sense of hatred, disgust, loathing. Okay. So gup is the root verb, dhatu, gup nindayam. Okay. So the gup, the word, the term, the verb root is known as gup, that is ninda. Ninda is something that one does not like, dislike. Now gup nindayam, and the jugupsa is a result of the grammar rule. It is not the desiderative, it is not signifying any ichha. Normally vivaksha, mumuksha, etc. are referring to the desire for the same. In this case, that is not the case. That is by a Panini Sutra called Svarthesan. So it is for the verb root's own meaning. So this is truly about Ninda, Ghrina. So the Jugupsa is elsewhere defined as Bibhatsa rasasya sthayi bhavaha shanta rasasya abhichari bhavascha. Bibhatsa rasasya sthayi bhavaha shanta rasa vyabhichari bhavascha. Means where the Bibhatsa rasa exists. So there are certain rasas that comes in Natya Shastra and elsewhere, more dealing with in some sense, creating an atmosphere, an emotional effect, and so on. So there is a Shanta, Raudra, Shrangara, Virya, etc. So Vivatsa is about disgust, loathing, etc. So Vivatsa rasasya sthai bhavaha. When that Vivatsa rasa is sthira, it stays, it is not fleeting. And Shanta rasa vyabhichari bhavascha. Vyabhichari means the two, when two things do not exist at the same place and time, that is called vyabhicharitvam. So here when it says Shanta rasa vyabhichari bhavaha means the Shanta rasa does not exist at this place. So that is how Jugupsa is defined. Okay. So that Jugupsa is about disgust, loathing, and so on. So śaucāt, from the śauca as a niyama, svāṅgajugupsā, there is loathing about one's own body. Parairasaṃsargaḥ, and also about coming in conjunction with other bodies, so to speak, right? Other bodies of other people. So essentially, there is a certain kind of a vairagya jananam from the realization of shaucha. Because the effect of shaucha practices is seen on one's own body, the dirt in the body is visible, and the place of the body constitution with respect to the higher constitutions is clearly seen, and therefore anything that was appealing about the body, either through the senses and through emotion, sensuality, etc., goes away. So that gives rise to svāṅgajugupsā, so that vairagya gets established. And paraihi asamsargaha, that is about one's own body, and similarly about other bodies. And Vyasa there gives further explanation in his bhashya, but this is the meaning of the words of the sutra: śaucāt, svāṅgajugupsā, parairasaṃsargaḥ.
So the niyamas have been commenced. In the sense, the accomplishment in the vratas of śaucādi niyamas has been commenced. So once again, it's a time to reiterate that yama niyamas are not moral ethical principles, and they are ethico-religious principles. So this sutra is again characterizing that aspect, which usually goes unnoticed, because shaucha is usually taken as personal hygiene. And Patanjali makes such a wording that it is not the personal hygiene. It is much more beyond that. The personal hygiene is a daily routine, and everyone has to do it every day. Now he therefore says śaucāt svāṅgajugupsā. Now usually those who are practicing personal hygiene out of norms or out of hygiene, they don't have svāṅgajugupsā by practicing hygiene. They have parairasaṃsargaḥ by practicing hygiene. If you are hygienically clean, and if you are practicing hygiene quite scrupulously, you start developing disgust for others whom you see as not so clean people but dirty people. So usually those who are practicing hygiene are particular about other people being clean, or they are very scrupulous and very critical about cleanliness of others, and they are excessively critical, and usually they see that others are not as clean as they themselves are. So there is parairasaṃsargaḥ in case of those who really practice normative hygiene principle. If you are clean, you don't try to touch dirty people. You don't want dirty people around if you are clean. So this is not cleanliness in that sense. Cleanliness has to be observed. Hygiene is something that is very fundamental for human life. But this is a vrata. Shaucha is a vrata. And there is a philosophy behind practicing shaucha, and not just normative principle behind practicing shaucha. So while practicing shauca, this yogi will start developing disgust for one's own body. Now this is something that we need to be analyzing, and of course the sutra will have that implied. Bhashya too will have that implication. So that this is one place where we can understand this is not a hygienic principle. Because why should one develop disgust for one's own body? Svāṅgajugupsā. Svāṅgajugupsā. If you are clean, you won't have disgust for your own body. If you are clean, immaculate, you would have disgust for others' bodies, not your body. So it would be not proper to dub this as personal hygiene, cleanliness, etc. If you are clean, you are overcritical about others' uncleanliness. And in no way you will have disgust for your own body. As a matter of fact, you will have narcissist complex. You will be more attached to your own body. You will be too scrupulous about you being clean all the time. And you will be all the time washing your hands and washing your face. So this is not cleanliness. Cleanliness is there for mankind, and mankind should be clean. You don't need Patanjali to say that you should be clean and observe cleanliness. Why do you want Patanjali to tell you that you must observe cleanliness? So this is not to be considered as cleanliness. You and me, anyone can give this advice to be clean and to practice cleanliness. No, Patanjali is not really doing that. It is very much more than that. And it is something where one can have vrata. One can have vrata. And again, you will understand vrata is not really vow. Vow is an English word for vrata. Vrata has to do something with religious observations. So shaucham is an aspect of vrata. And here it is vrata siddhi. And with accomplishment of vrata siddhi, which is, therefore I say it is philosophical kind of principle behind it. Therefore, by shaucha being perfected, one starts developing disgust with one's own body. And then parairasaṃsargaḥ. Now, this is taken as antisocial in social idealism. The yogi doesn't incline to be being in company of people. He wants to be aloof. So this is considered to be antisocial. But this is yoga. And we have to understand, take this in the perspective of yoga, that the parairasaṃsargaḥ. And again, very strange condition. Having disgust for one's own body, the yogi is disinclined for company of or association with other people. This is something strange for we mortal, worldly people, empirical people. We have a thought process which is under gravity of worldliness. So it is difficult to really construe that way. That if you have disgust for your own body, why would you have the parairasaṃsargaḥ kind of condition? So this sutra needs a special attention and special investigation and comprehension. So let's see what Vyasa is going to tell us about this sutra. Okay.
So Vyasa says, svāṅgajugupsāyam śaucam ārabhamānaḥ kāyavadyadarshi kāyanabhishvangi yatirbhavati. It says, in one's own body, when somebody who has begun and who is further establishing his vrata of shaucham, he develops that loathing. Svāṅgajugupsāyam śaucam ārabhamānaḥ kāyavadyadarshi. So he sees that the the things within the body that are sort of fit to be condemned. The dosha darshanam. The dosha darshanam is an essential aspect of vairagya. So seeing the dosha in various things, seeing the klesha janakam, what are the problematic things by attaching too much affection to the body, too much importance to the body, etc. So why is the body not fit to be glorified, and what is the aspect of it more fit to be condemned, and so on. So this whole understanding of that is known as kaya vadyadarshi. So the sadhaka, svāṅgajugupsāyam śaucam, one who is practicing the shaucha or undertaking the shaucha, he is a kaya vadyadarshi. He sees the doshas, the problems in having too much attachment to the body, and then kayanabhishvangi. So anabhishvanga means lack of detachment, the lack of attachment, lack of desire. So the whole attaching oneself to one's own body, he sees the problems in that. Therefore, he becomes an anabhishvangi. The attachment goes away. So kaya vadyadarshi, kayani bhishvangi yatir bhavati. So he becomes what is known as yatihi. Now, one way to understand yati is simply a yoga sadhaka. So yati is someone who has undertaken yoga, and the yoga is becoming firmer and firmer. So essentially, Vyasa is telling us how this thing comes about. So from the vrata of shaucha, once one essentially starts seeing the doshas, the problems related to the body and related more to attachment to the body, identification with the body, and so on. So that attachment becomes lesser and lesser. Because one may ask, why is this a siddhi, right? Svāṅgajugupsā, parairasaṃsargaḥ. It doesn't sound like a siddhi when one, doesn't sound like an attainment when one is developing loathing for one's own body and so on. What is there of the nature of siddhi? Similar to, there we saw the other siddhis for ahimsa, satya, etc. were glorious things. So this siddhi doesn't sound like that. Right? So here, the way to understand this is that the shaucha is a vrata, and for that vrata to become firmer and stronger, there is a seed of vairagya that needs to get planted, and for that the ability for dosha darshanam needs to be sort of ingrained in the yoga sadhaka, and that is the siddhi where the svāṅgajugupsā develops, which makes the shaucha, the practice itself, firmer, so that niyama is strengthened and the phala comes about. And when this phala will sort of further grow and fructify, that vairagya will sort of go to what is known as the apara vairagya, right? The vairagya from all these drishta, anushravika, etc., the things that are visible, seen, the gross things, the developing vairagya from that. For that, the one big launch point is svāṅgajugupsā, when there is a loathing for one's own body, etc. itself. Loathing as in the ability to see that it is not of the glorious nature or not worthy of that kind of attachment which may be coming through natural tendencies. So that realization is the svāṅgajugupsā, which will make the shaucha firmer and will make the apara vairagya stronger. Para vairagya then comes later. But this is how this siddhi is sort of finds a place in the yama niyama angle. So that is how Vyasa is explaining by saying svāṅgajugupsāyam śaucam ārabhamanaha. So somebody who has started the shaucha as a vrata, he becomes a kaya vadyadarshi. Why? Because of the svāṅgajugupsā. So once somebody who has started with the shaucha, once he comes to the level of svāṅgajugupsā, he starts seeing that the problems, the doshas, or the things that are fit to be more to be condemned in terms of their attachment to the body. So kaya vadyadarshi, kaya anabhishvangi, and yatir bhavati. He becomes that kind of a yoga sadhaka who, because of this particular stage, this particular siddhi, starts developing more and more of the apara vairagya. Then says Vyasa, kimcha paraihi asamsargaḥ कायस्वभाव अवलोकी स्वमपि कायं जिहासुः मृज्जलादिभिः आक्षालयन्नपि कायशुद्धिम् अपश्यन् कथं परकायैः अत्यन्तम् एव अप्रयतैः संसृज्येत. Okay, so he is saying, and then paraihi asamsargaḥ, because this particular yogi who is undertaking shaucha, and here the reference is to bahya shaucha. We have seen bahya shaucha, antah shaucha. Here the primary context is the bahya shaucha. It is also said, it says anena sutrena bahya shaucha sthairyasya siddhiruchyate. So this is about the bahya shaucha sthairya. So this is the mrujjala, etc., all the removal of dirt from the body and so on by bathing and all the other practices. So he says the yogi, he is seeing the kaya svabhava avaloki. He is seeing the nature of one's own body. Now it says swamapi kayam jihasuhu mrujjaladabhi akshalayannapi kaya shuddhim apashyan. So he is trying to undertake the shaucha of his own body through various practices, cleaning, removing the bahya dosha and the dirt. Mrit means mud and dirt, jala. So mrit jaladibhi akshalayan. So he is using mud, soap, etc., water, cleaning and doing everything, but he is still seeing that complete kaya shuddhi doesn't happen. It is never completely pure and immaculate. Even though I have undertaken this shaucha vrata and being so careful and meticulous about it, then katham, how, in which way would parakaya, anybody else's body, atyantam eva aprayataihi, one parakaya of other people who are not even undertaking this kind of shaucha, are not really intent on the bahya shaucha vrata at all. How can they have kaya shuddhi at all? How will their body be pure and shuddha? And therefore, this yogi who is seeing the nature of his own body as part of the shaucha practices and how it, in spite of all the attempts, it never gets the shuddhi, he realizes that other bodies are definitely going to be much more ashuddha, much more impure, much more devoid of shaucha. And thereby, there is a paraihi asamsargaḥ. The other bodies is definitely not shaucha at all. So any coming together with another body is going to destroy my own shaucha, and that is the paraihi asamsargaḥ aspect of his this particular level of siddhi related to shaucha vrata, and specifically in the context of the bahya shaucha, the external shaucha. So this is what the second line is saying. Kincha paraihi asamsargaḥ kaya svabhava avaloki, seeing one's own nature of one's own body. Swamapi kayam jihasuhu mrujjaladibhi akshalayannapi kaya shuddhim apashyan. In spite of trying to clean one's own body through all the practices, seeing that the complete kaya shuddhi is not happening, doesn't happen because of the nature of that body. Katham parakayaihi atyantam eva aprayataihi samsrujyate. Then how can I join or come together with another body which is of somebody who is not even doing any of these shaucha practices? And that is the paraihi asamsargaḥ. So that is how Vyasa is explaining both of this. So it is said in another, there is another quotation in another place called Maniprabha. It says, Shaucha parasya mamakayo na shuddhyati kimu pramatta parakayah. See, I am such a shaucha para. I am so much intent on this shaucha. Even in spite of all that, mamakayo na shuddhyati. My body itself doesn't become entirely shuddha, entirely pure. Kimu pramatta parakayah. Then let alone somebody else's body who is somebody else who is a pramatta, means who is not even undertaking all these shaucha practices. Iti dosha darshinaha parakayehi asamsargo bhavati ityarthaha. Therefore, this dosha darshi, now this yogi has become a dosha darshi. He is seeing the faults in various things as he is moving towards more and more purity, and therefore he develops this parakayehi asamsargaḥ, not wanting to come together, conjoin with another body. So therefore he stays away from elsewhere so that his shaucha is not affected. So that is what this sutra is about.
So Vyasa's commentary commences, which reinforces the position that we have been telling you, that these are not moral ethical principles. Because those who practice cleanliness and very, very particular about it, very scrupulous about it, many times it becomes a phobia. Constantly wash the hands, constantly wash the face, etc., etc. So we don't see that such people are kaya doshadarshi. They don't see defect in body. Actually, they start pampering their own body for the cleanliness that they practice. They practice cleanliness because they have possessiveness of the body. They are attached to body. They have tremendous attachment for body, and therefore they practice that overt kind of superfluous and overt kind of cleanliness. And here, Vyasa clearly says that yati bhavati kaya vadyadarshi. So in yoga, when yogi is practicing his shaucham, let us not call it cleanliness. Let us not call it hygiene and cleanliness. Because as I said, any human being is supposed to be doing that. Hygiene is something very basic. You don't need advice of a sage and seer and Patanjali for being clean. So he says here, kaya vadyadarshi. While those who practice hygiene and those who practice this Narayana principle, they don't develop this, what is called as kaya vadyadarshi, kaya dosha darshanam. So they do not see the defects in body. They only see defects in others' body, not their own body. And this body is the very, very basic force for us not to be going for Vairagya, not to be in Vairagya. Because the body's desires and demands and tendencies are so strong that body is one of the major antagonizing factors to pursue Vairagya, which Patanjali has mentioned. We have seen that in earlier first chapter itself. So that is the siddhi. Just now Srineet said that it doesn't sound to be siddhi, but this is the siddhi which Vyasa has pointed out. Kaya Vadyadarshan is also a siddhi. And then yati bhavati. So this shaucham is going to contribute for his Vairagya sadhana. The hygienic cleanliness will nowhere there is a trace that it will be encouraging Vairagya sadhana. You can go for any amount of analysis of hygienic cleanliness. You will not find any factor which will increase Vairagya. As a matter of fact, your attachment to your own body will increase because you will be cleanliness minded. You want to be clean all the time. So that is the siddhi here. So this is a totally different shaucham. Bahya shaucham here as a vrata and in yoga is totally different. Bahya, the shaucham practiced by those who are outside the realm of yoga, it's a different thing. They just want to be clean. But in yoga, shaucham, bahya shaucham even is totally different. There are different psychodynamics, different motivation, different purpose, different mode. It's not just engagement with bathroom and washroom all the time to be clean. Even the bahya shaucha is like that. And the yogi gets to realize what he says in the second line. He sees his own body, although he is trying to keep it clean, it hardly remains clean because the body is constantly emitting dirt. It's not that the dirtiness comes from outside, the dust, etc., that makes your body dirty. The body's process itself is such. Metabolism is such that it will be turning out waste of different kinds. So the body is dirt generator. It is not just dirt attractor. It doesn't just attract the dirt from outside. Like you keep something exposed, then you only have to know that after a while, a lot of dust comes on it, a lot of dirt is collected on it. But that is not the case here merely. Body itself is generator of dirt. Dirt is coming from within. This is the realization of a yogi. Clean people hygienically don't realize this. They think that dirt is coming from outside. In the course of time, in 3, 4, 5 hours, if you don't go for a wash, dirt is going to collect on you. And they blame the atmosphere, because if you know the atmosphere, an enormous amount of dust is collected by the earth, by the surface of the earth. Tons of dust is collected by the earth every second. That's in the atmosphere. So they look at the atmosphere around, conditions around, they say that's why the dirt is coming. And they don't see that the dirt is emitted by the body itself. The body is the dirt generator. They think their body is celestially clean, and it is the atmosphere around, people around. On account of them, our body is dirtied. So here, Kaya Swabhava Avaloki, wonderful kind of the description here. What is Kaya Swabhava? Kaya means body. What is the Kaya Swabhava? The body has come from dirt. Look at the origin of the body, from where this body has come. The body has come from dirt. The body is constituted by dirt. All body matter is constituted by dirt. The food that we eat goes into metabolism and then turns out skin, flesh, muscles, bones, tissues, etc. Apart from nourishment to us, it also turns out body matters. Now, if you keep the food too long, which you call as stale and putrid food, it is disgusting. You don't want to touch that food even. So the body which goes into the food which goes into the body is turning out body matter. So it is a waste of food in one sense. Otherwise, we just say that the nutrition or nutrients out of the food is turning out skin, flesh, muscles, bones, tissues, etc. That's the view of Vaidya Shastra. But philosophically, they see that the food is actually going under mutiny within our body. So the body is a chemical processor. Food eaten is turning out, it is spoiling the food. If you eat a delicious mango, what happens to mango after it has gone into your system? See, the taste and relish, etc., is only in the tongue. Then it goes down, maybe some nutrients will be taken by body. But then what is going to be turned out of it? The fecal matter, the disposable matter will be turned out. Whatever you might eat, however delicious, however clean, pure food you might eat, the body processes such that it turns out waste out of what you eat as nutritious food. Clean, nutritious, hygienic food. Even if you eat that, it is going to turn out unhygienic matter in the body. So that's the body, what the body is. And to understand this body, one should look into the description of body which has come in Garbhopanishad, Sharirakopanishad, which describes what is happening to food that we eat once it goes into the body. Like Chandogya, the sthula part of it is going to become waste, disposable, and fecal matter. The middle part of it is going to turn out skin, flesh, muscle, body matter. And the subtle part of it is going to turn out mind itself. Now, we all very well know how much our mind is good and how much our mind is bad. So we mundane worldly people, we know much of bad is in our mind. And the good is very scarce commodity in our mind. So see, the mind is turned out of food. So it is a kind of waste which is turned out. And that's why in philosophy there is mention about sattvic ahar, sattvic food, etc. It doesn't say just eat food or just eat nutritious food for your body matter. It tells you that the food is going to turn out mind. So take care. The dietitians don't consider the food and the mind relationship. They only consider the food and body relationship. And they say this is good for body matter, good for skin, good for flesh, good for muscles, good for bones, good for blood, good for corpuscular particles, etc., etc. But they don't relate it. That's why dietetics doesn't bring food and mind, establish that relationship and have some advice there. Whereas philosophy has the advice. Why sattvic ahar? The sattvic ahar is good for mind. So mind will not be dirty matter. We eat anything and our mind becomes dirty matter. And that is emitted by our actions and our thoughts. If the fecal matter of the food is going through the excretory system, the fecal matter of the mind is forming our mind and activities of the mind. So the point is, the body is waste generator. Every part of the body is turning out waste. Every factor of the body is turning out waste and dirt. Now, this is beautifully postulated in Upanishads. The modern science has not really touched upon it. But ancient Upanishads say. That's why Kaya Vadyadarshi. He becomes Kaya Vadyadarshi. And Kaya Svabhava Avaloki. He is one who observes. Yogi observes the Kaya, nature of Kaya. It comes from dirt. It lives on dirt. It emits dirt. It turns out dirt. Produces dirt. So, therefore, although yogi is practicing his own śaucāt, and then he is using all those agents to clean the body, despite that, the body is turning out dirt. See, if you are under the shower for 24/7, maybe your skin, the superior layer will be clean. But then the body has some kind of dirt which is turned out from within. Even if you are taking shower, the dirt is continued to be turned out from body and it will be surfacing sooner or later. The skin is porous. You know, there are sweat glands, etc. So what is that sweat gland? So once you are away from shower, there will be some dirt will be coming out and the grossest of it is sweat. Even if you don't sweat, dirt is coming out of the body. Because it is generator of waste. So when yogi says, my own body, despite my being in śaucā, so scrupulous about my śaucā, and murjaladi janita, śaucam I am practicing, what about others who are not so scrupulous about their own hygiene even? And that is why parairasaṃsargaḥ. So it is not that he develops disgust for others. It is body. He has disgust for his own body. Therefore, he has this kind of disgust for body of others, not other person. He doesn't have disgust for other person and other persons and other people. It is. We should know that it is disgust for body of others. While the others are also Atma Swarupa. Atma Pumya Sarvatram Samam Pashyati. This is what Bhagavad Gita mentions. So, on the plane of Atma or on the plane of soul, what you call as, he doesn't have disgust. He has disgust for body of others. It is because he is practicing so scrupulously, so carefully. And despite that, the body is turning out dirt. And you see, if you put on very clean, snow white clothes on your body, you see that the dirt appears on it very quickly. If you put on some dark colored clothes, you think it doesn't become dirty. It does become dirty in the same rate, but doesn't appear dirty. Snow white cloth will appear soon dirty. Colored cloth will not appear soon dirty. That doesn't mean that the rate of dirtying is more in white and less in colored cloth. The dirtying rate is same, but the point is appearance of dirt. So white cloth, snow white cloth will quickly appear dirty because it quickly gets the stains. The color cloth or darkly colored cloth doesn't show the dirt stain. However, it becomes dirty. So yogi is like snow white cloth. His body is like snow white cloth. His mind too is also like snow white cloth. And therefore he identifies the dirt quickly. You can quickly identify dirt on a very white cloth, snow white cloth. You don't identify the dirt on a black or dark colored cloth. It doesn't mean that it is dirty rate is less. No, it is not the case. Dirty rate will be the same. So that's why the kaya vadyadarshi, kaya sabhava avaloki, and kaya should be practices that he carries out. And he sees that others are not really particular about it. They might take once in a day bath and maybe once or twice a day wash, etc. So therefore he has a parairasaṃsargaḥ. Basically the siddhi here is that the vairagya, components of vairagya are turned out. Because if you don't have this kind of kaya dosha darshan of your body, vairagya doesn't get going. So first of all, it is very important to have kaya dosha darshanam, then the vairagya will be triggered. That is the siddhi. And that's the mode of śaucām which is mentioned. And again I repeat, not hygiene. Hygiene will not contribute for vairagya. Physical hygiene, personal hygiene will not contribute for vairagya. There are no components for vairagya. Therefore, we leave vairagya to mind. Mind should get vairagya. Mind should get vairagya. But the body is main obstacle for body not getting vairagya. Body attachments. You will always see that very clean people have a lot of body attachment. They protect their bodies. They don't want something be touching their body or somebody touching their body. So that's a different thing. That's a śaucām outside the realm of yoga. This is in the realm of yoga. Śauca has different dimensions. This is what has to be understood. And therefore, Vyasa's commentary makes it clear by predicate kaya sabhava avaloki, then kaya vadyadarshi, and yati bhavati. And that's why this śaucām, bahya śaucām, is so important. So you will be understanding the body in proper perspective if you are in śauca principle of yoga and not by hygiene. So not to confuse, because we tend to translate these words into English and then we say it is hygiene, cleanliness, etc. The śaucām has a different connotation here. Śaucām comes so many places. Dharma Shastra will mention about śaucām. Morality, ethicality also will mention about śaucām. But this is a different śaucām where there is a vrata possible, mahavrata possible. And therefore it will have a completely different effect. So this is a mahavrata, śauca siddhi in mahavrata. So you should know what is mahavrata. That not even slightest bubble of antagonizer in any deep plane of psyche consciousness is there, then that is the śauca siddhi. Like we saw ahimsa siddhi, brahmacharya siddhi. So śauca siddhi is totally a different thing. So this is a different realm of śauca practice and depth of śauca practice. So Vyasa makes it clear. Okay.
Yes, and from this background, probably also realize that this does not contradict. So when Guruji says, body is my temple and so on, body is my temple, asanas are my prayers, etc., that does not contradict the śaucāt svāṅgajugupsā, because the svāṅgajugupsā is about dosha darshanam, seeing the flaws in the nature of the body and in undue attachment to the body. And therefore, one takes oneself to, so to speak, a higher level beyond just the bodily aspects, sees the body as a place where the Purusha resides, and the other aspects of Adidaivatam that the body is a host for, because the Stula Shariram is known as a Bhoga Yatanam, and all the Devatas, etc., are said to reside there with the Purusha, who is sort of the master, the Ishvara there. So that realization goes hand in hand with this and is not contrary to this, because often there is a confusion around this. So hopefully with all this background that gets clarified.
And when Guruji said, body my temple, body the shrine, and yoga thy light, when he said it was not that his body was 24/7 was shrine. In yoga, in asanas, in pranayam, when he did yoga, the body was shrine. Because yoga was anusthana for him. The Atma was the deity within, and then therefore the body was shrine. It did not mean that 24/7 that his body he considered as a temple. While in yoga, and yoga has certain protocols like unified conditions, body, mind, breath, unified conditions, integrated conditions, in the integrity in body, mind and breath. In that case, the body was temple, shrine. So during his yoga, body was shrine. It did not mean that 24/7 the body was shrine, because the body was engaged in so many other activities. But in yoga, it was engaged in Atma Pujanam, Atmopasana. So that was Atmopasana for Guruji, and therefore he said, body the shrine. Even it is there 24/7, that doesn't mean that it is shrine 24/7. When you are in Devatopasana, Bhagavadopasana, Ishvaropasana, Yogopasana, Dharmopasana, then only it becomes temple, not otherwise. So, when Guruji said that, it was this, that when he was in yoga, body was the shrine. And then he went inside the shrine and worshipped his Atmadeva. So that's the meaning behind body the shrine. And therefore there is no contradiction. Okay.
So now continuing to Sutra 2.41. Vyasa says kincha, and furthermore, then comes the Sutra. Sattva Shuddhi Saumanasya Ekagrendriya Jayatma Darshana Yogyattvani cha. So this is a compound word of multiple terms. Sattva Shuddhi Saumanasya Ekagriya Indriya Jaya Atma Darshana Yogyatva. And also all of these come about. It's from Shaucha. So here the context is shifting towards Antashaucha, from the Bahya Shaucha. And there is a list of things that are enumerated in the sutra, saying Sattva Shuddhi, Saumanasya, Aikagriya, Indriyajaya, Atma Darshana Yogyatva. Okay, so these are the other siddhis, other results that come in. So we'll briefly see this and continue in detail in the next session. So Sattva Shuddhi. So here Sattva refers to the Buddhi Sattva. Okay, Sattva is also the Buddhi aspect of the Antakaranam is known as the Sattva. So Sattvasya Shuddhi, Sattva Shuddhi. So from the Shaucha practices, more Antashaucha practices, there is a purity of the Buddhi Sattva, of the Buddhi. So Nishchayatmaka Buddhi. So the Viveka, the ability to discriminate, arrive at a decision and so on, make a certain, given an option, come out with a resolution, etc. Those are the functions of the Buddhi. So there is a Shuddhi, the purity that is required. Otherwise, that we have seen in Gita also as a Buddhi Nashaha. So the ability to arrive at the right conclusion and to the highest level with the highest paramarthik understanding. So that is Sattva Shuddhi. Then Saumanasya. Saumanasya refers to the again the purity and the Nirmalata. So that is the purity, and the Prasannata. So that is Manaprasadaha. So that is what is referred to as Saumanasyam. So Nirmalata, Swachhata, Preetihi, Prasannata, etc. So that is a Bhava Samshuddhi also. So that is Saumanasyam. So there is Sattva Shuddhi, there is Saumanasya, then Aikagrya. Aikagrya is the ability to not waver. Vikshepa rahitam manaha ekagra manam. Ekagra manaha. So there is no vikshepa, there is no unnecessary shifting, jumping of the manas. Right? And the next time we'll see this in more detail. But that Aikagram is something that is very integral to yoga, and that Aikagram, Ekagrata, is another one of the siddhis from Shaucha. Then there is Indriya Jaya. So Indriyas are what is translated usually as senses, but they don't refer to the gross sense organs like the eye, ear, etc. because they are not part of the gross body. Indriyas are part of the Sukshma Shariram, the subtle body. So the internal mechanism that makes it possible to sense and to act depending on Jnanendriya, Karmendriya. So that is the internal Shaktis, so to speak. That is the Indriya. And Indriya Jaya refers to having the Indriyas under one's control, so to speak, in the sense that the Indriyas don't go wayward with their own vasanas and tendencies. That does not happen. That is known as Indriya Jaya. So that Indriya Jaya is another siddhi of Shaucha. Then Atma Darshana Yogyatva. So these being fit, being suitable to have Atma Darshana. Atma Darshana is in some sense the highest of this yogic practice and just a precursor to Asampragnata Samadhi. So it is the state of Viveka Khyati, Purusha Khyati. So that Atma Darshana, to be able to realize that, one needs to have a certain level, certain qualification. So that is known as Yogyatvam. So the Atma Darshana Yogyatvam, right from body, mind and everything, all the Anadi Vasanas, etc. The Karmashaya that is part of the Chitta over several lives and several births, etc. Those have been, all the doshas, the problems there have been overcome, and one is now fit and suitable to get a Purusha Khyati. That is Atma Darshana Yogyatvam. That exalted state is also a siddhi arising out of the Shaucha as a Niyama Vrata. So this is the list, and Vyasa will say that this is also an ordered list. So there is a succession and ordering in the listing that Patanjali has provided. So from Sattva Shuddhi to Saumanasya to Aikagrya to Indriya Jaya to Atma Darshana Yogyatvam. So in this list, we will see in more detail next time with references to probably other texts where the importance of this can also be presented by us to you. So this is Sutra 2.41, which is the second of the sutras that show us the siddhis from, second of the two sutras that bring about the siddhis from the Shaucha, which is a Niyama Vrata. And this we'll see the details in the next session.
So there is once again a cue that this is Bahya Shaucha is altogether different than we generally conceive about it. What is our notion, idea, conception of Bahya Shaucham? It is totally different here. It is in yoga. Now the Bahya Shaucham is it itself is a corridor for Anta Shaucha. It is not that these are two different Shauchas, that Bahya Shaucha is one thing and Anta Shaucha is another thing. Bahya Shaucha itself leads towards Anta Shaucha. So there are totally different psychodynamics behind Shaucham, even if it is Bahya Shaucham. While those who are practicing hygienic cleanliness, we don't see that they are bothered about their own minds. They don't bother about the dirt of their own mind. And they don't know that the mind is dirty because they can see somebody else's mind dirty. So they know that mind can be dirty. They do not know that my mind may be dirty and should be dirty and can be dirty and is dirty. So that cleanliness or that hygiene doesn't at all give any lead to purification of the mind. But here, Vyasa, with enunciation, kimcha, sattva shuddhi saumya manas. So it means that there is a corridor. It's a corridor by itself, that it leads towards anta shaucha. The bahya shaucha itself will be leading towards anta shaucha, and not say that this is one circle of bahya shaucha, that's a separate circle of anta shaucha. That's why this shaucham, which Patanjali has mentioned, is totally different. And then he mentions, as just now you heard, that there is a kind of sequential order. The first occurs sattva shuddhi. So by this, bahya shaucha of yoga, you will also be bothering about your own mind, and you will think of having your mind purification. So that will be circumscribed by very bahya shaucha of yoga. And then sattva shuddhi, saumanasya, ekagriya, indriyajaya, atmadarshana, yogatva. So this is how, that's a sequential order. These are not different effects of anta shaucha. But this is how anta shaucha will escalate, evolve from sattva shuddhi to saumanasya to ekagriya. So saumanasya ekagriya means it is yogic mind. Then again indriya jaya means again further more escalated yogic mind, and therefore probability, qualification of atma darshana, self-realization, which is the goal of yoga. So that's how the shaucha has such a kind of efficacy that it will land you into atma darshana yogyatvam. Now you can understand what is this range of shaucham. Bahya becoming anta shaucha, leading to anta shaucha, and anta shaucha leading you to atma darshana yogyatvam. So this concept of shaucha is unique, and lot of pondering is necessary. Lot of deep insight has to be developed for this shaucha aspect. The whole yogic process is nothing but shaucham, shaucham, shaucham. Sattva-purushayoho shuddhisam me kaivalyam, Patanjali says in the 3rd chapter. The sattva shuddhi, which is mentioned here, can ultimately lead to kaivalyam. It is such an enormous efficacy that it has. Its course is so enormous, so enormously long, like a river having a long course of 3,000 miles and 4,000 miles, etc. So it's such a long river of shaucham. So it's not a pond that you will, with a bucket of water or a bucket or two of water, you become clean. It is a river of purification. And that's why this shaucha has enormous philosophical purport, which has to be excavated. Point is, bahya shaucha is such that it leads towards anta shaucha. It will not be a kind of box by itself, that this is anta shaucha, bahya shaucha, and now I will have to practice anta shaucha. Bahya shaucha itself has such a precept, or such a culture, or such a process, that it will lead the practitioner into anta shaucha, and that long river of anta shaucha will take him to atma darshana yogyatvam, which is almost spiritual summum bonum of yoga, or human spiritual endeavor. Okay.
So let's recite the shlokas on Guruji and stop for today. Vaijñānikam pravaktritva āsaneshu kalavidam yogābhyāse ca tattvajñam vandeham sundaram gurum yogaruksho hi lokesmin yat preranena varditah yogācārya guro tubhyam Sundaraya Namo Namaha. Thank you.
Namaskar.